Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Victor. This is Jack. Today is going to be part 3 of our What Really Happened series, where we discuss past events and kind of go into detail and try to come to the bottom of what actually happened during this event. And today is going to be the Oklahoma City bombing. Jack.
Okay, so if you think that the Oklahoma City bombing was Timothy McVeigh and that he works with maybe a couple people and did a Ryder truck bomb, and then that's what happened. It's not even close to the reality of what happened at all.
Okay.
So first, I'm going to break down what you're going to see. I'll put a link in the description. The first link is for basically a CNN documentary. It's 45 minutes long. It tells the official narrative. The official narrative is this guy was in the Army, and he became disaffected with the United States government. He had some friends with him from the Army. They were also the same. He read the Turner Diary, so he's racist. And so,
What is the Turner Diary?
oh, it's a book written. I don't know. It's a story about, like, I think it's in the 60s or something. And there's like some race riots, and they're like white people leading to some revolution or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I've talked to people who've read it. I've never actually read it. But it's like, you could just say, this guy may have never even known the word Turner Diaries. And you could just say, he was reading the Turner Diaries, and everybody's like, racist, you know? So basically, he's anti-government guy, you know?
Okay.
And he decides to, so he doesn't like what happened at Ruby Ridge. That's 92. Then we go to 93, and he doesn't like what happened at Waco. He's supposedly at Waco handing out or selling some type of anti-government flyers or something.
Like in the camp with the media and all that?
Yeah, like he's outside
okay.
with protesters and the media and stuff like that. And he's agitating against the government, supposedly. And then, so that happened on Patriot Day is when Waco got burned, basically. And it has historical significance. I forget the exact thing. And then the Oklahoma City bomb is going to happen exactly 2 years later from the Waco fire on Patriot Day as well.
Okay, well, is Patriot Day called that because of Waco, or it's called?
No, I forget. It's related to a previous historical thing.
And it just happened to line up on the Waco thing?
Well, they had planned. I think it was random that it could be though, because in that story you remember the FBI was trying to kill everybody to avenge the ATF. So from their view, killing all the Americans could be their Patriot Day thing, you know, and so. And then in the mainstream narrative, Timothy McVeigh is going to choose Patriot Day because he's a patriot and is against the government. This is also going to be the government choosing Patriot Day to murder Americans. I'll just let you know in advance. But the mainstream narrative is he chose that.
In 95 now.
Now we're in 95, right? And so basically the story goes that he needed a target that had two of the three following agencies working there. So the ATF, the U.S. Marshals, and the FBI, which were the three agencies involved with both Ruby Ridge. You know, the first one was
just the Marshals and the FBI.
The Marshals and the FBI, and the next one was the ATF and the FBI. So this building, the Oklahoma City building, it had the U.S. Marshals and the ATF.
Okay.
And a lot of other stuff. You know, there was Social Security. There's all types of stuff as a building. And so supposedly he picked it because there were those two agencies in there. And he rented a Ryder truck, made explosives, parked it out front of the building, like 15 feet away from the building, set the fuse, got out of there, and then he had parked his car 4 blocks away, and he had to put like a sign, "Don't tow, I went for, repair or gas," I forget. And then he's walking away, he gets 2 blocks away, and it blows up at 9:02 a.m. So everybody's there that's going to be there who's not late. And then 168 people dead, 650 to 800 wounded, depending on the story.
Wow.
19 children dead of the 168 dead. And so then he continues walking the 2 blocks and gets in his car and drives away. But because of something with not having tags or something, he ends up getting pulled over up the road by a police officer. And then when the police officer goes to talk to him, and then Timothy McVeigh moves, he sees a bulge. And so the cop grabs the bulge, puts his gun to his head and says, and Timothy McVeigh says, "My gun's loaded." And he's like, "Well, mine is too, bud." And he nudges him with the gun. So he gets taken into custody because he has this firearm,
But isn't Oklahoma constitutional carry? Or maybe it wasn't them?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I believe it was he had a concealed firearm without. So I don't think it was back then. And so he's just being held, though, on a minor charge. So basically they go do the research and they find one of the axles has from the scene of the Ryder truck. And then they get the information it's a Ford. They contact them. They find the Ryder that it was with. They find a description of who checked out that vehicle under an alias. And they get a sketch. They start taking the sketch to the local motels. They find a motel. They just ask them, hey, did anybody park a Ryder truck here? You know, and they find one that did, and somebody who matches that description. So the hotel person says, yeah, I've seen that person. And they register as Timothy McVeigh. They said, quick, look around for any Timothy McVeighs. They're like, we've got one in custody, you know? So they're like, they're about to bail him out. Stop the bail. They stop the bail. They've got him. They do their, basically the story goes like this. He lived with a guy named Terry Nichols, who was from the Army. And there was another guy, Fortier was involved. And basically, like, they're trying to say that the three of these people planned this and that two of them backed out, you know?
Oh, okay.
And so Fortier ends up testifying against them. Basically, the long and the short of it is he gets the death penalty. He tries to argue that it was a necessity to do what he did because of the terribleness of the government, but his lawyer doesn't let him do that defense. And it's kind of a show trial because they basically don't have like any documents and stuff. They're not provided any of that stuff. Like his lawyer got to go to the bomb site one time, you know, and then didn't actually get to go and look. So it was pretty foolish. And then he gets sentenced to death. Terry Nichols gets sentenced to life in prison. And then Fortier, who had testified against them, gets 10 to 12 years, depending on the documentary you're watching. Hard to tell the truth. And then he goes straight from there to witness protection. And so he's gone. Okay, so that's the official narrative.
Gotcha.
He wrote himself a manifesto before he died. So it basically said, like, look, the United States does this to every country around the world. They just blow people up when they don't like what they're doing. And so this is basically like him making an act of war upon the United States, just like the United States would do to an enemy. Okay. You know, like somebody says bad something, we just go blow up their wedding or something, you know? Yeah. So that's the mainstream narrative. And it's incredibly far from the truth for just a variety of reasons. There's so many reasons, honestly. So first I'm going to talk about the bomb. Okay. So the bomb was ammonium nitrate fertilizer bomb. Okay. The bomb was not an ammonium nitrate bomb. It just wasn't. If it was a fertilizer bomb, it releases poison gas, basically. Oh. And nobody could have been in the recovery effort without a gas mask. Oh, interesting. So that's not what it was. There's this other bombing, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like this is what, now I put another really good documentary that actually tells the truth called A Noble Lie in the description. And if you got 2 hours, it's well worth it. But so they do like an air blast, the bomb, you know? And so it shatters windows and does a lot of superficial damage, the fertilizer bombs. And so they had one previously on like a military math center or something. And so some people had set the bomb off outside. The bomb was closer than the Oklahoma City bombing. And it just did so little damage that they reopened the next day. That little area that got bombed, you know, with the windows broken. Okay. Like, yeah, those rooms were closed, but the whole building, the structure's fine.
It's concussive. It really isn't as like a...
Right. So in this situation, the vehicle's 15 feet away. So they're like, okay, we're going to recreate this. We're going to bomb a building to recreate this bomb. So they put a bunch of barrels, you know, with the fertilizer bomb. And then they exploded it and they realized, oh, that didn't work at all. Because the problem is each of the concussive blasts going off simultaneously negated each other. So it was kind of like one barrel went off. Oh, wow. So they're like, okay, we're just going to make it one giant bomb, you know? Okay. And we're going to make it a little bit bigger than the Oklahoma City bombing. And we're going to put it closer to the building, right? So they put a bigger bomb closer to the building, blew it up, and there was just no structural damage to the building. Like the windows were blown out. I mean, there was like people would have died.
Yeah.
If you got a classroom in there or like a daycare like they had at Oklahoma City
But
bombing.
did the whole side of the building collapse? I feel like I've seen
Right.
videos.
That is what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
And so also when the Ryder truck's here and then the building's here and it explodes, and what happened is the explosion went this way and then it went this way, and tens of thousands of papers ended up on the other side of the Ryder truck because they were going against the explosion, right? And so the only way, well, I don't know what kind of bomb it was in there if it wasn't ammonium nitrate. But no matter what, there had to be more bombs inside. So it was reported that there were more bombs.
When?
Okay, well, immediately they stopped the rescue operation and said, everybody back 4 blocks, there's more bombs,
Wow.
And then they said, oh, there's not 4 bombs. And there was other suspicious things like the ATF just backing trucks up and just loading documents from things. There was like weird stuff going on all around. And okay, we're gonna come back to the bombs because later on when the eyewitnesses see him putting the C4 onto the structure of the thing, that's kind of later in the story. I'm gonna tell you how I realized that this whole thing was funny.
So you started off just not knowing when you started looking into this.
Yeah, no, I had watched a literal CNN documentary, and I said, wow, this guy, is crazy. He was a patriot. He did this different stuff. Like, I mean, he killed kids, but you know what I mean? And anyways, I ended up on just a weird website where it's got like weird hell stuff, weird Christian stuff, like way out stuff. Because I was just looking about stuff, and I was researching for our website. And it's just like an 8-point list. And I start reading down the list and I'm like, nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. And then it said, no ATF agents died that day. And I'm like, okay, nonsense, but easy fact check.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just Google it. And I'm putting the link for that in the description. It's like a CBS article. And it just goes floor by floor who died and who they were, like who they worked for. And then it says, people who just died in the blast, who were walking down the street or whatever. No ATF agents.
And it was 9 a.m. So there should have been someone there.
Right.
Okay.
They're always there every morning. And so I'm like, wait a second, something's amiss here. Something's wrong. So then I started researching some more and I found this really great article. So there's this libertarian website and they do a lot of different stuff, but for some reason they've written one article and it's just about the Oklahoma City bombing. Really? And I'm putting that in the description too. It's incredibly comprehensive. If you just want to go fact check anything, you could just go scan that thing. It's beautiful written. I have no idea why it's on that website, but it's really nice. And then I start reading that and it's like, there's several eyewitnesses who have put in affidavits saying that they overheard ATF agents saying, oh, that's why we didn't get the page to come in today.
They didn't get a page or they got a page to not come in?
Yeah, you're right, correct. That's why we got a page not to come in today.
Okay.
But there's several different affidavits of people saying that. So I'm like, well, something's amiss here,
right.
Okay, so basically there's a lot of suspicious stuff about Timothy McVeigh. Okay, so the official story says that he was in the Army. His entire goal in life was to get into Special Forces. He immediately began going into Special Forces and then immediately dropped out because he was unfit.
Okay.
To his family, that's a joke because they say that he was recruited to do undercover stuff, undercover operations. And even he wrote a letter at one time that, the sister turned over to the FBI that said that his job included like assassination, this and that. Like, anyways, so at one point he appears in Buffalo, New York. And he's running around saying, yeah, I read the Turner Diaries. I hate the government. And he's just going on. And it's like, what the heck, So there's this area. It's in basically eastern Oklahoma on the Arkansas border. And it's this place called Elohim City. And there's like some white supremacist groups there,
Okay.
And so the FBI already has a thing where they have to have at least one active agent in every militia, white supremacist group. Like that's policy, which is fine. Do what you want, I mean, you're allowed to surveil as long as you're not like killing the people and stuff. Yeah. So anyways, well, I guess it leads to that. So basically, there's no direct evidence that he was there at Elohim City. He got a parking ticket very near there. Now it's very off the road. So if you're there, you're there. He got a parking ticket driving ticket, near there. And he made several phone calls there. an eyewitness who's an ex-white supremacist. He said he was going through a thing, he said. And he says that he guarantees he's seen him 8 weeks before there. So there's also another guy, and I don't remember his last name, but they call him Andrew the German, you know? And apparently what happened is he's a white supremacist from Germany. The CIA brought him over. He goes to Elohim City. Okay, so now we'll get back to the bombs. So an eyewitness saw 2 men, one of them possibly identified as Andrew the German, putting putty on the support structures of the building and putting wire which is det cord, you know. After the bomb goes off, Andrew the German is shuttled back to Germany by the CIA. And the FBI later questions him by having a stern phone call with him to find out if he was involved. Turns out he wasn't. So basically, there's so many different weird things that go on with this story. And it doesn't really matter which one you think is the correct way that all these things go together. No matter how you put it, the government blew up the building. So it could be that it's likely that Timothy McVeigh was working for the government. Okay. It's like, for example, Terry Nichols. I don't know if we trust Terry Nichols, but he's doing life in prison. And then at the time, he sent a letter to Janet Reno, who was the attorney general, and said, hey, if you want to know the truth about the Oklahoma City bombing, you can come see me. And Terry Nichols had said that Timothy McVeigh only told him about who one of his superiors were in his chain of command. So that would be his current chain of command, you would think, right?
You would think.
Because his superior was Larry Potts, who was the current assistant director of the FBI. Previously, he had been the lead field agent for Ruby Ridge.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if we believe Nichols at all, though.
Okay, that's fair.
I just don't know, because you're doing life in prison, like maybe you're bargaining. I don't really know what's going on. But it seems that he was still, like, even on his death certificate, they put current occupation U.S. Army.
On McVeigh's?
McVeigh's, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty suspicious. I strongly doubt whether or not Timothy McVeigh died.
Really?
Because why not just shut him out the back door if he's your agent?
Well, if he's a good asset and he's doing all this.
Why not?
Interesting.
But if he did die, then the scenario would be that he was working for the government and he was trying to get these white supremacists to go do the false flag, to go do the thing. Now, the reason why they want to do this, you might wonder, like, why are they just trying to murder people? The ATF's looking bad right now. And the ATF is trying to they got an omnibus bill trying to go through.
But they look bad because?
Ruby Ridge.
Okay.
You know, which was years before, but it's like they're having funding problems now.
Okay.
Because they look so bad.
Wait, ATF was Waco, not Ruby Ridge?
Oh, ATF was Waco. I apologize.
Okay, so but
yes.
we are talking ATF.
Yeah. We are talking ATF,
okay.
Yes. And they're the ones who also knew about it. So there's this.
Oh, okay, right.
There's this omnibus spending bill that's going to give them all the money.
Oh.
You know? But they want to push it through. Now, even with the Oklahoma City bombing, it still didn't pass. And it had to wait until later on to pass. That bill will pass later.
So they were trying to justify the need for the ATF because look at all these bad things that happen.
Like domestic terrorism is a real thing.
Oh,
look,
right.
we blow up buildings really good, you know? So, but it looks just like a lot of the stories we see where the government goes and gets groups to try to do things. So in this case, Timothy McVeigh would be going to get this group to do things.
Okay.
But the problem is, what does the group consist of? It's just all the government. Because he got Andrew the German to do it, who the CIA had brought in.
Right.
Now, I don't know who the guy with him was, but if the government's not, like, for example, if Timothy McVeigh works for the government and Andrew the German, and there's one other guy putting the putty on the thing, they've got to say, ha, got you. You've been arrested for there to be some.
Right.
Okay, so we had 10 agents and one guy who we convinced to do this, but nobody was arrested in this. Terry Nichols wasn't 48, you know, so it's nonsense. So anyways, there's a strong theory that he got people to do this and then he took the fall for it. Like, he didn't mean to take the fall for it. He didn't know that he was his own patsy.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what I mean? So in that scenario, he would have died.
Right.
Because he would have stopped being that. But
But wouldn't he have come clean if he felt betrayed or something?
Okay, so if he's doing all those things and he's working for the government, then the government's holding a ton of stuff over you and your family. Like you're like, I've murdered people for the government, and then I could tell everybody, but I got family.
Okay.
You know the capability of the government because you're in that group.
You're doing this stuff, yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, there's just so many other things. Like, of course, the FBI just destroyed evidence, hid evidence. Right before they were going to kill McVeigh, they're like, oh, here's thousands of documents we didn't release during the trial. You know, like it's just a normal thing. And I in the Noble Lie documentary, there's a point where this one guy is like, man, you know, if they would just release the security cameras from the street. Okay, so we still don't have the security cameras from the street. Anytime there's an incident in the history of the United States of America and they say, we're not going to release the security footage, the government did it.
Right.
The government, there's no reason not to. You could say, oh, there's an active investigation. We're holding off for a month. We're doing a manhunt. We're not even telling you who we're manhunting for. But then you release the video.
Once you got the guy.
Once you got the guy. And in this case, they're like, we got the guy.
No video.
But no video. I mean, the eyewitnesses say they saw a brown truck pull up, right? Two Middle Eastern guys get out and hurry off, right? So when the bomb goes off and then they're talking to people and they find this out, they're like, APB, brown truck, two Middle Eastern people. That goes on for 1 hour until they call and say, no more APB. They're just told not to.
Yeah, so they got a call.
Yeah, don't go look for the suspects. Let me tell you another part of this story that was really funny. So when they arrested Timothy McVeigh, he had a business card for a military surplus store on it, right? On him. And on the back of it, he had handwritten, dynamite, $5 a stick, need more. This is weird. Are you serious? It's absurd. Okay.
It's like the people that are framing this aren't even people. Like they're trying to
yeah.
Like, how does a human write? And it doesn't make any sense.
Or they're like, as Americans, you're so stupid.
Right.
That you can't even put yourself in their shoes for a second and say, what'd you do that? Kid, there's another guy I want to tell you about. Let me get his name real quick. Okay, Terrence Yeekey is his name.
Okay.
Black guy, family man, police officer, patrolling in the area. He was like writing a ticket. Boom, the bomb goes off. He goes to the scene. Okay. He saves like 8 people, you know? Nice. Like, I mean, he's, you know, in the business. He's
doing his job. He's
a good cop from everything we know. He's a good cop. So now we go to after the bombing and
like days or weeks after.
Yeah, just the whole time afterwards. Now he's getting, he's just got like a whole group of feds on him because something he knows is too much. He gets his car broken into. He gets his home broken into. They just follow him wherever he goes, you know? And on the day he killed himself, he told his family, he's like, okay, I'm going to go to the storage unit. Then I'm going to meet you for dinner. First, I got to shake the feds who are following me, right? So he drives off and he kills himself.
Wow.
So before he kills himself, he beats his entire body, including the bottom of his feet.
Wow.
He cuts himself on the arms and the legs. He cuts both of his jugulars. He shoots himself through the head. And that's how the torture homicide of Terrence Yeekey went, right?
He was really not happy with himself.
Really upset. There's another guy, and this is just wild, okay?
Just so we're clear, he didn't do that to himself. I mean, if we're just for the people who are not keeping up with the story.
I'm pretty sure they know. I hope so. Anyways, there's another guy, right? And this guy he had done some crimes, okay? And then he was on probation.
Okay.
And then he got his probation revoked. He ended up at a federal transfer facility. And the crime that this American had committed against the system is that he had a similar dragon tattoo on his arm to somebody who was at Elohim City. So because of that, he hung himself. But first, he beat his entire body. Then he beat the bottom of his feet. Then he cut himself. Then he cut his jugular. And then he hung himself. He wasn't the right guy. It was an interrogation and it was a torture murder by the FBI. You know what I mean? Or whatever government is. I'm just saying. Because he had a similar tattoo to a guy at Elohim City. It wasn't the guy.
Wow.
I mean.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's just, there's so many things. Okay. So one of the big things is that, like in the Noble Lie video you'll watch, is that prior knowledge. right? They say, did they have prior knowledge? And it's basically, if you're not working for the system, it's 100% sure they had prior knowledge as a baseline. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that's not available for discussion, because of the ATF and all of that, and just all of the things. And then the fact that the bomb wasn't the type of bomb they said it was, couldn't have done what they did, that you would need more. Oh, there was another story about the bombs. Let me tell you this. This is great. Okay. So the truck is here and it explodes this way, right?
Okay.
And there's two support structures here and here. This one explodes and crumbles and dies, and this one takes no bomb damage.
Wow, that's odd.
So it passed through B4 or C4, I forget which one it is. I think it's B4, and then completely obliterated B3.
Oh, wow.
So there's no way the damage to the building could have happened without there being more explosives. They admitted at the time there were more explosives. Like I was telling you that story before, and I got sidetracked. But before that, they said that was a scare. Now you can go back and rescue people. When they said there was another bomb. Later on, they reported that there was a second bomb. They reported that there was a third bomb. They said, oh, we've now diffused these bombs. Later on, they say there was only one bomb. So there was this one local news agency, it's in the documentary, who kept going on this.
Oh, good.
Right? And they said, they're just releasing stuff. They got bought immediately, like 1 year later, by the New York Times. All the people involved with that were fired.
Wow.
You're not sticking to the story, But it's funny because you all had put the story of the second and third bomb being diffused. But now you're just saying, we were always at war with Eurasia. We always were, It's just insane.
Right.
Okay, so what do we got for lessons we can learn from this?
Well, you definitely hit a couple of them. I would say the prior knowledge one, that's a really good one. If you can find evidence of someone in the government doing something where it's clear that they knew this bad event was happening, they're in on it, they're instigating it, it's entrapment, it's something like that.
Yeah, that reminds me of like when the FBI had infiltrated for the January 6th thing. And then they're fully involved in every stage of planning and executing the January 6th thing. But then when the mayor says, FBI, do I need extra support there? No, you're good. But they had prior knowledge.
Right.
And that prior knowledge is the key thing, that now you're not, you know what I'm saying?
Or at some level, you're responsible for instigating.
Because if you have prior knowledge and you're still planning this and you're still going to entrap these people, you also need to say, yeah, mayor, kind of beef it up,
Okay,
because you don't want anything to be compromised, any buildings to be damaged, people to be injured,
Yeah, or you do.
Right. You definitely do if you say you don't want more security there.
Yeah. So another thing that you mentioned was about the video footage. If they're not releasing that, there's a reason. If it clearly showed Timothy McVeigh or whoever doing the thing, they would release it because it's, hey, look, we got the bad guy, everyone's safe. They don't want to release it because of what it shows. You can apply it for the 13,000 hours of January 6th that they won't release, because there's stuff on there that they don't want you to see.
Right. The
media. Yeah, you can't trust what the media says, or what the government's saying from their press conferences that the media is pushing. That the local news didn't stay in line. They didn't carry the story how they were supposed to, and now they're gone.
Yeah. And this is not an isolated incident, is what we're trying to say. Like we did Ruby Ridge, Waco. They're lying. Go back though. Let's go back. 1945, World War II is in. They lied to us and told us that the U.S. found a death camp, Dachau, for like 10 or 11 years. And then later on, they're like, oh yeah, no, we never found a death camp. The Russians did, we didn't. But you've been lying to us. They paraded German citizens around this camp, telling the German citizens it was a death camp. We thought it was, you know what I mean? And then you go to the Gulf of Tonkin,
which is
the false flag that we did to fake like we were being attacked to get us into Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
And they said, we're going to do a video on it. But they said, it is a lie. Decades they said it was a lie, They said that there was not a false flag.
Oh, okay.
Or they put forward the false flag lie for decades.
We really got attacked or whatever.
And just backing it, even though the sailors were saying, I don't think there was anything out there, And you're a conspiracy theorist, but that's for decades. Gotcha. And this is the exact same media. So, we're talking 40s, we're talking 60s, we're talking 80s, we're talking 90s.
You could probably go WMDs, I'm guessing, is on the list.
Yeah.
In Iraq.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is nothing You should trust nothing. If they're saying lockstep, if one is going against the others, that's what I would listen to.
Right.
If one of them saying something like, what? No, because it's the narrative that's being pushed across the way.
Totally. I feel like we've said this over and over again. You take what's being fed to you, take the opposite stance, and just start there. It may not be the truth, but just like that, begin your exploration. Like, why are they lying to me right now?
And that level of critical thinking will lead you down all the right roads. Because you may say, oh, I was wrong about that one. The media was right. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you've critically thought through it. But if you just generically accept it, you're screwed.
Yeah, we had a conversation back when the Nord Stream and the CIA came out and said, we think the Russians are going to destroy this. We had a phone call and we immediately said, okay, so we're going to destroy it, was our initial reaction.
Right.
And there's stuff coming out. I mean, as we speak right now, indications are it was us.
Right.
Like, just start with that mindset, and you're going to just start understanding things, and you'll be like, I can't believe they would do that, but are they? And then you're going to see it come out, and you're like, wow, that really is the way to think. So just seriously, give it a shot, and your mind will be blown. Yeah.
And then the other thing is, it's just about the system itself. Like, look, the system cares more about funding than about your life or your children's lives. You know, like there was all this rage about Timothy McVeigh. They stood out there, you baby killer, you know?
Totally.
You're misdirecting the rage, though. Right. You should be furious at your own government that, I mean, I'm furious every week filming these stupid videos like of this garbage. You know what I mean? 168 people dead, 19 children. They're the worst. And if you're still going along with this, with your left-right, fake dichotomy and, just propping up the uniparty, like, for goodness sakes, they won't hesitate to murder you and your family. Like, for goodness sakes, even if you're not the right guy, say you get the wrong tattoo, we'll say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're a nice police officer and you've seen the wrong thing. Like, look, I just got to urge you to withdraw consent. Join us or join someone else and do something.
Talk to people. Tell them these stories. Just spread the word and get more people to understand what's going on.
Right. Because if we just acquiesce and go along with this, we'll just be making more of these videos telling you about the next, fake governor hostage situation or January 6th nonsense or whatever they're cooking up next.
Well, we really hope you enjoyed this video. We got a little amped up here at the end, but this is some serious stuff, and we're hoping you're starting to pick up what we're laying down here. Anyway, we appreciate your likes and comments. Let us know what you thought about this if you're learning anything, and we'll see you next time.